Hi everyone, it's Miss Stoll here. First of all, I want to thank you so much for writing your special place poetry. I thought they were absolutely wonderful and looking forward to that being shared with you. Um, this week, I think it's really important that you guys get to choose your topic. And so instead of us giving you a theme, what we're going to do this week is give you a way to write a poem. Okay? And those of you who looked at and viewed the video on the friendship poems would have seen a sonnet already about friendship that was written by Shakespeare. And we're saying today that we're going to work on Shakespearean sonnets, but I want you to realize that this is actually a method for writing a poem. They don't only exist because Shakespeare wrote them. Of course, he wrote the original ones, but there are many modern versions as well. Of course, people write sonnets all the time. There's actually another type of sonnet, which we will look at in a future session. But for this particular one, we're going to look at doing a Shakespearean sonnet, which has its own type of rhyming pattern to it. Okay? Right, so first I'm going to show you a modern one. This was actually written by a teenager. It's a website called Teen Ink, and basically this is teens that write poetry and other pieces of writing to share with other teens and obviously people around the world. So I found this. It was written in January 2020, okay, so quite recently. And it's called A Battle of Wits. And it says, "You and I argue like cats and dogs do. We fight like elements, fire and water. Yet we have learned from one another too. Work well together, different from each other. Debating topics, usually your choice. Music, politics, climate, and many more. Though always talking, you never lose your voice, even though it is you that I adore. Your eyes electrify me, bring me love. A battle of wits I will not win. You stay with me like a couple of doves. To be amazing as you is a sin. A battle of wits you have challenged me, though now I have discovered I love thee." Okay, so that was written by somebody in secondary school. And what they did was obviously they picked a topic, okay, and then they followed the pattern that is needed for a Shakespearean sonnet. So let's talk about that pattern. What you'll notice is that there are 3 sets of 4 lines, okay, and each of those are called a quatrain. All right, and in those quatrains, we have a rhyming pattern. Okay, so I've shown you this on the side here. If you look at the arrow, okay, A, B, A, B. Now, what I mean by that is the ends of those lines follow a rhyming pattern. So let's look at this first quatrain. It says, "You and I argue like cats and dogs do. We fight like elements and fire and water. Yet we have learned from one another too. Work well together, different from each other." Okay, so the do and the to rhyme, and the water and the other rhyme. Okay, and that's why I've written A, B, A, B. So that you can remember in the first quatrain that your first and third line have to rhyme, and so do your second and fourth line. Okay, and this pattern continues, but there is a little bit of a catch, okay, or a rule. You can't repeat that rhyme. So you're going to have to choose different types of rhyming words or different sounds for your other 2 quatrains, okay? And that's why I've used different letters here. So if we look, choice and voice rhyme together, more and adore rhyme together, but they certainly aren't the same as do and to or water and other in terms of the type of rhyming. Okay, so this person's taken a little bit of poetic license, okay, with water and other. It's fairly close. It's not completely close or exact. So when you do yours, try and get it as exact as possible, but this will do. Okay, so we've got A, B, C, D, C, D. And again, you need 2 more that are different. Here, she's gone with love and doves, okay, and win and sin. All right, so that's E, F, okay, so different rhyming sounds. And finally, we end with a couplet, okay? So we started with 3 quatrains, and our last 2 lines have to be a couplet. Now, by a couplet, we mean 2 lines in a poem that rhyme, okay? And in this case, she's chosen me and thee for her rhyming words, and you'll notice that those are also different than the previous rhyming words. Okay, so we call that a couplet, and we'd like it to sound different than the other rhymes in this poem, or in any sonnet, okay? And once again, this is a Shakespearean sonnet, and this is the pattern we see. First quatrain, first and third line rhyme, second and fourth. In the second quatrain, it's the first and the third, the second and fourth. And the third quatrain, same pattern, but again, different rhyming sounds. E and E, F and F, so first and third, second and fourth. And we end with a couplet, which is just 2 lines, but again, a different rhyming sound. They both need to rhyme. So whereas with the poetry you've done so far, you haven't had to make it rhyme, now in order to write a sonnet, that's what we need to do. Okay? Let's now take a look at one of Shakespeare's sonnets. Okay, and this is quite a famous one. It's Sonnet 18. And it says, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. By thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee." Okay, now in this particular version, what's happened is we've bolded every second syllable. Okay, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Now, we wouldn't read it like that, okay, and Shakespeare didn't expect people to read it in perfect, what we call iambic pentameter. Iambic means that we have an unstressed shall, and then a stressed syllable, I. So I'm stressing it with my voice. Shall I compare? Sorry. Oh dear. Okay, let's try that again. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? But once again, we would not read it like that because that would get very boring, okay? So we bring in our own intonation when we read poetry, and that's perfectly fine. Pentameter means that there are 5 stressed syllables per line, okay? What I want you to take from this is that each of your lines in your poem should be 10 syllables. Okay, so let's count that. Shall, 1, I, 2, come, 3, pair, 4, thee, 5, to, 6, a, 7, some, 8, mers, 9, day, 10. Okay, so when you write your poem, you need to make sure that every line in the poem is 10 syllables long, and then it will work. Okay, so let's just go back and quickly review. You need 3 quatrains and a couplet. Okay, the rhyming pattern is first and third, second and fourth lines for each quatrain, and the couplet both have to rhyme. Okay, I'm just going to let you look at this for a little bit so that you can see what the poem meant. Okay, so let's take a look together. It says, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" That's fairly straightforward. Thee means you, so shall I compare you to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. You are more lovely and more constant. Temperate means, if we were to talk about weather, it would mean like it's not too hot and it's not too cold. It's somewhere in the middle. Okay, so that's why that means constant. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. It says here, rough winds shake the beloved buds of May. What that means is all of those beautiful budding flowers and trees, okay, they're shaking in the wind, okay. And summer's lease hath all too short a date, which means, and summer is far too short. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines. At times the sun is too hot. And often in his gold complexion dimmed, or often goes behind the clouds. So in other words, yes, we can often have too hot of a sun that's very evidently there, and then sometimes it will be hidden by clouds. And every fair from fair sometime declines, and everything beautiful sometime will lose its beauty. Okay, so that's what he meant by declines. It means it goes down. By chance or nature's changing course untrimmed meant by misfortune or by nature's planned out course. Okay, so this decline in beauty might be because there's a natural disaster, that's misfortune, but it might just be because the plant's aging or the season is changing and the flowers are going to die. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, but your youth shall not fade. So actually now we get to the point. He's comparing youth to summer. Okay, that's what he's actually comparing it to. Nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor will you lose the beauty that you possess. So maybe beauty is deeper than physical appearance. Okay, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, nor will death claim you for his own, when in eternal lines to time thou growest, because in my eternal verse you will live forever. So now he's transferring this concept of death to something much more spiritual. Okay, if you are written about, then you live on. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long as there are people on this earth, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So long will this poem live on, making you immortal. And of course, that is one of the powerful things about writing, whether it's a poem or whether it's a novel or whether it's a biography, people do live on. Characters do live on. I mean, we know about characters from ages back because we read and because we're aware of them from books. Right, so this brings me to your task this week. Okay, you're going to write a Shakespearean sonnet. Now, we don't mind what the theme is or the topic that you choose. Okay, you might want to write about a person. You might want to write about a concept like we've done with friendship and a special place. Okay, but the purpose of this is to practice writing a sonnet with that particular rhyming theme, okay, or rhyming pattern. Right, so you're going to think about your topic. That's your first step. All right, once you've decided that, you need to plan your rhyming words and write your quatrains and your couplet. Okay, once again, make sure that those rhyming sounds are different each time. Okay, and your third step is then to check that you have iambic pentameter. And remember, we simplified that to mean 10 syllables per line. Okay, and then you can alter that as you need to and edit your poem. Okay, so once you're done, don't forget to submit it, and really proud of the poetry you've been writing so far. It's absolutely stunning. Okay, so keep up the amazing work, guys.